There's a place in Miami where the average home sells for over $70 million, where every single resident is a billionaire, where the police force outnumbers the homeowners, and you've probably never heard of it. It's called Indian Creek Village. 41 homes, 41 families, one private island, and a level of security so extreme that even the Secret Service takes notes. This isn't just wealth. This isn't even ultra wealth. This is the place where billionaires go when they want to disappear. When Forbes lists and paparazzi lenses become too much. When you need a neighborhood where your next-door neighbor isn't just rich, they're Bezos-level rich. But Indian Creek is just the beginning. Around the world, there are streets and enclaves so private, so fortified, so expensive, that most people will never step foot on them. Places where homes don't just cost hundreds of millions. They cost your entire identity, your complete anonymity, your willingness to live behind walls that never come down. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're going inside the most private neighborhoods on Earth. The islands where mega yachts dock in your backyard. The mountain villages where helicopters are the only way in. The urban fortresses that make the White House look accessible. And we're asking one question: what happens when the 1% of the 1% decides they don't want to be seen anymore? Let's find out. Indian Creek Village sits on a man-made island in Biscayne Bay. It's technically part of Miami-Dade County, technically part of Florida, but in every way that matters, it's its own country. 41 homes. That's it. The entire island is 300 acres, and most of that is an 18-hole golf course that only residents can play. There's one bridge on and off the island, one guardhouse, 13 full-time police officers for 41 houses. Think about that ratio for a second. The village has more cops per capita than almost anywhere in America. They patrol 24/7. They know every car, every face, every delivery truck. If you're not supposed to be there, you're not getting past the bridge, period. And the people who do live there? Tom Brady, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, Jeff Bezos, who reportedly bought 3 homes for a combined $147 million, Carl Icahn, Julio Iglesias. People who don't just have money. They have the kind of money that requires an entirely different infrastructure. The average property value on Indian Creek is now estimated at $75 million. Some of the larger estates have sold for well over $100 million. And these aren't just houses. They're compounds. 30,000 square feet, private docks, helipads, walls, gates, security systems that would make a military base jealous. But here's what makes Indian Creek truly different. It's not just private, it's invisible. There are no restaurants, no shops, no businesses of any kind. You can't accidentally stumble into Indian Creek. You can't drive through it. You can't boat past it without being watched. It is a neighborhood designed for one purpose: to let billionaires vanish. And it's not alone. Indian Creek wasn't always Billionaire Island. It started in the 1920s as a country club community. Wealthy, sure, but not this kind of wealthy. The original developer dredged the bay, built the island, planted the golf course, and marketed it to Miami's growing upper class. For decades, it was exclusive but not extreme. A nice place, a gated enclave, nothing more. Then something shifted. In the 1990s and 2000s, as global wealth exploded, as tech fortunes minted new billionaires overnight, as hedge funds and private equity created a class of people with more money than small countries, privacy became the ultimate luxury. Not just privacy from the public, privacy from other wealthy people, privacy from the press, privacy from governments. Indian Creek had something no other neighborhood could replicate: physical isolation. It's an island, one bridge, one entry point, and a local government small enough that residents could essentially control every decision. When you have 41 homeowners and 13 police officers, you're not just living in a neighborhood, you're living in a private nation. The transformation was rapid. Old homes were torn down, new mega mansions went up, and slowly, Quietly, Indian Creek became a magnet for people who didn't just want to be rich, they wanted to be unseen. By the 2010s, it had earned a new nickname, Billionaire Bunker. And once that reputation took hold, the prices went vertical. Because here's the thing about ultra-private enclaves. Scarcity drives everything. There are only 41 homes, ever. The island can't expand. Supply is frozen. Demand is infinite. When Jeff Bezos wants in, when Tom Brady wants in, when every newly minted billionaire in America decides they need a fortress in the sun, those 41 homes become worth whatever someone is willing to pay. Which brings us to the second most private neighborhood on Earth, Courchevel, 1850, France, pronounced Courchevel. If Indian Creek is where billionaires go to disappear in the sun, Courchevel is where they vanish into the snow. This isn't a neighborhood in the traditional sense. It's a mountain village in the French Alps, part of the largest ski resort in the world. And at its highest point, above the clouds, sits a cluster of chalets that cost more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. We're talking about properties valued at $50, $80, $100 million. Not hotels, not resorts, private homes, chalets with helicopter pads, underground parking for 20 cars, wine cellars, spas, and views that stretch across the Alps like something out of a dream. The owners? Russian oligarchs? Middle Eastern royalty? European aristocrats? Silicon Valley founders? The kind of people who don't ski in Aspen anymore because Aspen is too accessible. Courchevel, 1850 is different. It's harder to reach, higher, colder, more remote. And that remoteness is the point. There are no paparazzi at 14,000 feet, no tour buses, no Instagrammers crowding the slopes, just private helicopters, private chalets, and private lives. The entire village operates on a different frequency. Michelin star restaurants that don't advertise, boutiques that open by appointment only, a level of service so discreet that staff are trained never to acknowledge guests by name in public. And here's where it gets even more extreme. Some of these chalets are only occupied a few weeks per year. The owners fly in for Christmas, maybe a week in February. Then the homes sit empty, but they're maintained year-round. Full staff, full security. Because for the people who own them, it's not about usage. It's about having the option, the ability to disappear into the mountains at a moment's notice. But if you think Indian Creek and Courchevel are exclusive, there's one more place that takes privacy to a level that's almost hard to believe. The Peak, Hong Kong. On the highest point of Hong Kong Island, above the skyscrapers, above the noise, above the 14 million people packed into one of the densest cities on Earth, sits a neighborhood that feels like it exists in a different dimension. The Peak has been Hong Kong's most exclusive address for over a century. During British colonial rule, only Europeans were allowed to live there. That law is long gone. But the exclusivity? That's only intensified. Today, the Peak is home to some of the most expensive real estate in the world. Homes routinely sell for over $100 million. Some estates have been valued at $200 million or more. And the people who own them? They're not just wealthy, they're dynasties. Families who've controlled industries for generations. Tycoons whose names appear on skyscrapers across Asia. But here's what makes the Peak different from Indian Creek or Courchevel. It's not physically isolated. It's in the middle of a massive, crowded city, but it's psychologically unreachable. The roads are narrow, winding, heavily forested. There are no tourists hiking around, no random visitors. The homes are hidden behind gates and walls and vegetation so thick you could walk right past a $200 million mansion and never know it was there. And the people who live there guard their privacy with an intensity that's almost military. Security is constant but invisible. Staff are everywhere but silent. The entire ecosystem is designed to let residents live in complete anonymity while being physically surrounded by millions of people. It's the ultimate paradox, the most crowded city, the most invisible neighborhood, and it raises a bigger question. What does life actually look like when you live in these places, when you've bought your way into total seclusion? The answer is more complicated than you'd think. Here's the thing about the most private neighborhoods on Earth. They're not just about money, they're about control. Control over who sees you, who knows where you are, who can reach you. In a world where privacy is almost impossible, where every transaction is tracked, every movement is recorded, every face is photographed, these neighborhoods offer something that's becoming more valuable than gold, the ability to opt out. But there's a cost, and it's not just financial. When you live on Indian Creek, you live on an island. Literally. You're surrounded by water and guards and gates. Your neighbors are billionaires, sure, but they're also the only people you ever see. Your world shrinks to 41 homes. When you live in Courchevel, you live in the clouds. Beautiful, yes, but isolated, cut off. The village empties out for most of the year. The silence can be deafening. When you live on the peak, you live above everyone. Physically, metaphorically. You're in the city, but not of it. You can see the crowds below, but you'll never be part of them. And that's the trade. You get security, you get privacy, you get the ability to live without interference. But you also get separation, distance. A life that's so protected it can start to feel like a cage. Some people thrive in that. They want the walls. They need the isolation. For them, these neighborhoods aren't prisons. They're sanctuaries. But for others, there's a creeping sense that something's been lost. That in the process of disappearing, they've also erased the parts of life that made it worth living. The randomness, the spontaneity, the chance encounters. Because here's the paradox of extreme privacy. The more you protect yourself, the more you cut yourself off. The safer you feel, the smaller your world becomes. And at some point, you have to ask, is this freedom? Or is this just a very expensive form of hiding? Indian Creek Village, Courchevel 1850, The Peak. These are the most private neighborhoods on Earth. Places where the ultra-wealthy go to vanish. Where money doesn't just buy luxury, it buys invisibility. But invisibility comes with a price. So here's the question. If you had the money, if you had the option, if you could buy your way into total privacy, into a life where no one could find you, no one could see you, no one could touch you, would you take it? Or would you realize that the thing you're protecting yourself from is life itself? Think about it.